The call came at 2:47 p.m., right in the middle of my presentation. I'd ignored the first 3 calls from my mother-in-law. But when my husband's number flashed across my screen for the 4th time, my heart stopped. Something was wrong. "Emma's in the hospital," James said, his voice tight with panic. "You need to come now." My knees buckled as I gripped my desk for support. What happened? Where's Linda? She was supposed to be watching her at home. Mom took her to the beach. His voice trailed off. The beach? They took my 6-year-old daughter with a severe heart condition to the beach without telling me. The room started spinning. I'm Sarah Matthews, 34, and my daughter Emma was born with a congenital heart defect that's shaped every moment of her life. 3 surgeries before age 5, countless medications, and strict activity restrictions were our normal. Linda, my mother-in-law, had never accepted these limitations. She needs to live a normal life. She'd argue every time I enforce Emma's restrictions. "You're being overprotective." James turned out fine, and I let him do everything. But James didn't have a heart that could fail from overexertion. I broke every speed limit driving to the hospital, my mind racing with possibilities. When I burst through the emergency room doors, Linda stood there with her perfect blonde bob and designer sundress, wringing her hands. "It all happened so fast," she started, reaching for me. I stepped back, my voice ice cold. "What happened?" "We just wanted to give her a fun day." Linda's voice wavered. She was having such a good time in the water with Katie, my sister-in-law Katie, another enabler who thought Emma's restrictions were all in my head. "The water?" My voice rose. "You let her swim. Where's Emma? Where's my daughter?" A doctor appeared then, his face serious. "Mrs. Matthews, Emma's stable, but she's in intensive care. She experienced severe cardiac distress from overexertion. If a lifeguard hadn't reached her so quickly." I pushed past him, following his directions to the ICU. The sight of my little girl, pale and small against the white hospital sheets, machines beeping around her, nearly brought me to my knees. Her long brown curls, so like mine, were still damp with salt water. James arrived shortly after, his face drawn. "Sarah, I know you're upset, but Mom was just trying to give her a normal day." I whirled on him. "Normal? Does this look normal to you?" I gestured at our unconscious daughter. "They could have killed her." "You're overreacting," he said, running his hands through his hair. "Mom said she was fine until." "Until what?" "Until her heart couldn't take it anymore. Until she nearly drowned because her heart gave out while swimming in the ocean." Linda and Katie appeared in the doorway, both looking apologetic, but not nearly apologetic enough. "Sarah, honey," Linda started, "we were watching her the whole time. We had no idea." "No idea." I cut her off, pulling out my phone. "No idea about this." I showed them the series of text messages I'd sent Linda just last week, detailing Emma's activity restrictions. The highlighted portion specifically mentioned no swimming without proper supervision and medical clearance. Or this. I pulled up the notarized medical directive I'd made Linda sign when she first started watching Emma, acknowledging she understood the severity of Emma's condition. Or maybe you forgot about this. I played a video from 3 months ago where Emma's cardiologist explicitly told Linda that swimming could be fatal without proper precautions. The color drained from Linda's face. Katie stepped back, suddenly finding the floor fascinating. I thought you were just being paranoid," Linda whispered. James started to speak, probably to defend his mother again. But the steady beeping of Emma's heart monitor suddenly changed rhythm. The machine started alarming and medical staff flooded the room, pushing us out into the hallway. As we stood there, watching through the window as doctors worked on our daughter, I turned to my husband and in-laws. "If anything happens to her," I said, my voice deadly calm, "I will hold all of you responsible, and I have everything I need to prove it was negligence." The next few hours were a blur of doctors, nurses, and medical updates. Emma's heart had stabilized, but the damage from the incident was severe. Her cardiologist, Dr. Porter, pulled me aside late that evening. "Sarah, I need to be clear about something," he said, his face grave. "This level of strain on her heart, it's set her recovery back significantly. She may need another surgery sooner than we planned." I nodded, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. "Can I stay with her tonight?" "Of course," he said, squeezing my shoulder. "And Sarah? I've documented everything about this incident. if you need it for any reason. I understood what he wasn't saying. He dealt with Linda's resistance to Emma's care plan before. He was giving me ammunition if I needed it. As I sat beside Emma's bed that night, holding her small hand and listening to the rhythmic beeping of her heart monitor, I made a decision. This wasn't just about one day at the beach. This was about years of undermined decisions, ignored medical advice, and disregarded boundaries. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "Mom's really upset. She feels terrible. Can we talk about this?" I looked at our daughter, at the tubes and wires keeping her alive, and typed back 2 words. Lawyer first. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The following week was a blur of hospital rooms, medical consultations, and mounting tension. Emma remained in the ICU, her condition slowly improving but still critical. I barely left her side, sleeping in the uncomfortable hospital chair while James shuttled between home and hospital, always making excuses for his mother. "Mom's a nervous wreck," he said one evening, pacing the small room. "She's not eating, not sleeping. Don't you think you're being too harsh?" I looked up from Emma's medical chart, where I'd been documenting every detail of her deteriorating condition. "Too harsh? Our daughter almost died, James. She needs another surgery now because of what they did." It was a mistake. "No," I cut him off. "A mistake is forgetting to give her afternoon medicine once. This was deliberate. They knew about her condition and chose to ignore it." Just then, Dr. Porter entered with Emma's latest test results. The news wasn't good. The strain on her heart had caused additional complications, requiring immediate intervention. As he explained the risks of the upcoming surgery, I watched James's face finally register the severity of what his mother had done. "The surgery, how much will it cost?" he asked quietly. "Don't worry about that," I replied coldly. "Linda's insurance will be covering it." "What? How?" I pulled out a folder I'd been keeping close. Remember that medical directive she signed? The one specifically mentioning no swimming? It makes her liable for any medical costs resulting from negligent care. James sat heavily in the chair beside Emma's bed. "You can't be serious. You're going to sue my mother." "I already have. The papers were served this morning." The door burst open and Linda stormed in, waving the legal documents. "How dare you, after everything I've done for this family?" "Everything you've done?" I stood up, my voice low but intense. "You mean like ignoring every medical warning? Like risking my daughter's life because you thought you knew better?" "I was trying to give her a normal childhood." Linda's voice rose hysterically. "Mrs. Matthews," a nurse appeared at the door. "I need to ask you to keep your voices down. This is an ICU." Linda lowered her voice but continued, "James, are you going to let her do this to me? To our family?" I watched my husband, seeing him torn between his mother and the sight of our daughter in a hospital bed. Before he could respond, Katie appeared behind Linda. "Mom stopped," she said, surprising us all. "We messed up." "Bad?" She turned to me, tears in her eyes. "I should have stopped it. When Emma said she was tired, when she said her chest hurt, we should have listened. She complained of chest pain, and you still let her swim." Dr. Porter interjected sharply. Linda paled. This was new information even to me. I felt the blood drain from my face as I imagined my little girl trying to tell them something was wrong, only to be ignored. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking. "All of you, get out right now." "Sarah," James started. "No, I mean it. Get out. My lawyer will be in touch about the rest." After they left, I sat beside Emma, watching her sleep. Her favorite stuffed penguin, Mr. Waddles, was tucked under her arm, the only familiar thing in this sterile environment. My phone buzzed with messages from James's family, alternating between guilt and anger. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened my email and began typing a message to my lawyer, forwarding Katie's inadvertent confession about ignoring Emma's symptoms. Each piece of evidence strengthened our case, but it felt hollow compared to what we'd lost. That evening, as I was updating Emma's medical journal, a habit I'd started after her first surgery, I found an entry from just 2 weeks ago. Emma had drawn a picture of herself swimming with mermaids, writing underneath in her wobbly handwriting. "Mommy says I can't swim yet because my heart needs to get stronger. But someday." Someday. That was what Linda had stolen from us. The chance to do things properly, safely, when Emma was ready. Now we were facing another surgery, more recovery time, more setbacks. A soft knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. It was Katie, alone this time. "I might have something you should see," she said, holding out her phone. "I was going through my photos from that day. I thought maybe," she swallowed hard, "maybe you could use it for your case." On her screen was a video showing Emma in the water, clearly struggling while Linda encouraged her to keep swimming. "You're fine." Linda's voice rang out. "Don't be dramatic, just like your mother." I watched in horror as my daughter's distress became more evident until finally, "Stop recording and put that phone away." Linda's voice snapped. "She's fine. She just needs to push through it." The video ended there. I looked up at Katie, who couldn't meet my eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have done something sooner." I took a deep breath, my hands shaking as I forwarded the video to my lawyer. "Yes," I said quietly, "you should have." 3 months later, I sat in our lawyer's office, listening as she outlined the settlement terms. Linda's insurance had agreed to cover all of Emma's medical expenses, including future treatments related to the incident. The video Katie provided had been the final nail in the coffin. "They know they can't win this in court," Sarah Bennett, my lawyer, explained. "The evidence is overwhelming. The video, the signed medical directive, the documented history of ignoring medical advice." I nodded, feeling no satisfaction despite our victory. Emma had just been released from a hospital last week after her third surgery in 3 months. Her recovery would take even longer this time. James shifted uncomfortably beside me. Our marriage had become another casualty of his mother's actions. He'd moved out 2 weeks ago, claiming he needed space to think. In reality, he couldn't handle being caught between his mother and his daughter's well-being. "There's one more thing," Sarah said, pulling out another document. "They want you to sign an NDA. No social media, no public statements about what happened." I laughed bitterly. Of course. Linda's reputation means more to her than actual accountability. "You don't have to sign it," Sarah reminded me. "No, I'll sign it, but I want something in return." I pulled out my own document. Full legal custody of Emma, with supervised visitation only for the grandparents. And it has to be supervised by medical professionals. James started to protest but stopped when I turned to him. "You can have joint custody if you want it, James, but your mother and sister will never be alone with our daughter again." He deflated, nodding slowly. He'd seen the video too. Had watched his mother ignore Emma's pleas to stop. Some things couldn't be unseen. The paperwork was finalized that afternoon. As we left the office, James touched my arm. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I should have protected her better. Should have stood up to Mom sooner." "Yes, you should have." I didn't offer forgiveness. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. At home, Emma was napping on the couch, her new surgery scar still pink and healing. She'd been quieter since the incident, more hesitant. Her therapist said it would take time for her to trust again. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda. "I hope you're happy. You've torn this family apart." I blocked her number without responding. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about family drama or hurt feelings. This was about a child's life. Later that evening, as Emma and I sat coloring together, one of the few activities she could safely do during recovery, she looked up at me. "Mommy, will I ever be able to swim?" "Yes, baby," I promised. "When you're stronger, we'll find a special instructor who knows about hearts like yours. We'll do it the right way." She nodded, returning to her coloring. "I like doing things the right way better," she said softly. I blinked back tears, watching her concentrate on staying within the lines. She was learning that boundaries were good things, even if her grandmother never had. The doorbell rang, and Emma tensed, a new habit since the incident. But it was just Katie, holding a large envelope. "I'm moving to Seattle," she announced without preamble. "But I wanted you to have these first." She handed me a USB drive and some papers. "It's everything. All the texts between Mom and me about ignoring Emma's restrictions. The times we took her to do things we knew weren't allowed. Maybe it'll help another family not make our mistakes." I accepted the drive but didn't invite her in. Some apologies came too late. As I watched Katie's car drive away, I felt no anger anymore. Just a quiet determination. Emma's medical journal had become a legal record, her story a warning to others about the dangers of ignoring medical restrictions. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she hugged Mr. Waddles close. "Can we get a pool when I'm better? A safe one." Of course, sweetheart. And this time, we'll do everything exactly as your doctors say. She smiled, drifting off to sleep. I sat watching her breathe, each rise and fall of her chest a reminder of how close we'd come to losing everything. My phone lit up with a message from James. Mom's talking about contesting the custody agreement. I glanced at the USB drive Katie had given me, then at my sleeping daughter. Let her try, I typed back. Some battles were worth fighting, and I'd never stop protecting Emma, even from her own family.